Hey everyone, it's Hugo from Productrise, and in this video I'm going to show you how I audit a product feed for organic shopping. The goal here is to increase the quality of your product feed and your website so that Google better understands what it is that you're selling, so that you can rank higher in Google's shopping graph. And if you don't know what Google's shopping graph is, it's basically this entire separate index that contains all the products from all over the world in each country. What are their prices, who is selling those products, reviews, images, availability, you name it. And Google heavily relies on your product feeds to understand what you're selling. Before I dive in, I want to talk about feed quality. Basically, feed quality has always been kind of an afterthought. Back in the day when product feeds were first used by Google, it was mainly just an advertising play. A couple of years ago, Google started rolling out organic product carousels that were ranking in traditional search. Ever since, Google has been rolling this out far and wide. And now, once you do a product-specific search on Google, what you will see is a couple of product carousels with product listings in them. How do you grow your visibility in those features? That's through optimizing your product data through Google's shopping graph. And it all starts with your product feed. I'm going to be using Productrise for this, but you can follow the steps that I'm doing for each product feed audit. But yeah, what I have here in Productrise is a feed. I've set up a feed for tracking. I went to Shopify. I took a look at one of their example web shops, the one that they showcase on their website. And this is one of them. I looked at some of their products. I created a very simple product feed for it, which you can see here. And some of you may already see this, but this feed is not really great. It does have all the necessary information, but it's a little thin. Anyway, I used this product feed to add to Productrise, and I'm just going to rerun my product feed audit just to make sure that I have fresh data. And once it's done running, we can dive in and see what it has found. And just mind you, this product feed only has 3 products. Most product feeds contain hundreds or even thousands. Some contain 1 million products. Now, what you want to do here is you want to have a system. That can either be Productrise, that can be a spreadsheet, that can be Screaming Frog, that can be a whole list of other tools. But what you actually need, and what I'm going to show you, is that you're going to have to be able to dive deep into the data. There are lots of feed management tools. You've probably heard of the big ones like Channable or Data Feed Watch. Maybe you're using a Shopify plugin like Symprozis. What none of these tools tell you is how well your products are optimized for organic shopping. All these tools probably have a quality score or a health score, and they do flag some stuff, but only the stuff that is really basic. None of those tools, including Merchant Center, tell you what you need to do in order to start ranking. Here's a look at Merchant Center. Merchant Center shows no issues whatsoever. All the products are approved and they've been so for months already. If I look at Merchant Center alone, I would make the conclusion that there's nothing I have to do in order to increase my positions. And that's where a proper feed audit comes in. What I'm using here is Productrise. Productrise does things better. We look at feed issues and we look at website issues. There's basically 2 scopes here. Most tools only look at your product feed. They look at things like, do you have any description? Is there a GTIN? Is there a product category? Basic checks. That's not bad, but you need to take it one step further, because as many of you already know, Google will verify all your feed information with what visitors are actually seeing once they visit your website. And so just auditing your feed alone is half of the job. You'll have to audit all the product pages that are linked to from within the feed. Productrise separates those checks. We run a bunch of feed checks, and we also run a bunch of website checks to verify whether or not your data is in order. So this feed has completed running. It took a couple of seconds. And so I'm going to go through some of the issues. And some issues are critical, some are just warnings, and some are good already. Those are the groupings. Every check that we do it for every single product inside your product feed. If the check has come back okay, then it's passed. If there's some things that might be wrong, but we cannot tell for sure, then it's a warning. And if there's a critical issue, then that's something you should know and you should be able to fix. Now, just going from top to bottom, it starts with a basic feed check. Some products in my product feed have a really short title length. And so this is low-hanging fruit. Title lengths that are this short miss the opportunity to include rich keyword data in your product title. Now, I don't really advise you to stuff it just with keywords, but you can do better than this. If you're selling this folding stool, then there's probably some keywords that you can add into this product feed and on your website in order to rank for more queries. Another one is the product category. If you don't have a product category listed on your product feed, ProductRise will let you know. If you already have a product category on your product feed, ProductRise will verify it. Is it the correct one? Or is there maybe a better category that you should have picked instead? Those are things that we also check. A product type, which is another attribute that you can use in order to give Google more information about your products. If it's missing, we flag it. These are relatively basic checks. But right here, there's another critical issue. That's a website check. So what we did here is we didn't just check your feed, we also went to your product pages, and what we found is that there is no structured data on those web pages that confirms what you're saying in your product feed. And so what you need to know here is your product feed, that's the easiest thing for Google to understand about your website and what it is you're selling. The next thing that's easiest for Google to understand is structured data, because structured data, the name says it all, it's structured. Google doesn't have to try to understand it. If there's no structured data on your product pages, then that's something you should know and you should be able to fix based on this audit. Now, moving down, there are a bunch of warnings. The description length. There is a description on these products, but it's relatively short. What I see very often is that a product description is just the meta description of that product. A lot of people are relatively lazy when it comes to writing product descriptions, especially before AI. I don't know a single person who wants to actually write unique product descriptions for thousands of products. It's a shitty job. But now with AI, this is something that you can do relatively easily. And so it's pretty lazy and low-hanging fruit if you've got short descriptions that miss the opportunity to provide Google with rich data about your products. And so if your product descriptions are there, but they are really, really short, that's something you should know of and you should be able to fix. Moving on, we have product images. Most product feeds, they have a main image, and this example does it as well. So for each product item, there is one image link, but there are no additional image link fields. And that's a missed opportunity because most products have multiple images. Images like these, they should also be included in your product feed. Basically, the rule here is that any image that's also on your product page, it should go in your product feed. So this is something we flag as well. If you're missing a GTIN, then that's a warning because some products don't really have a GTIN, but if you do have one, you should be able to flag it and add it to your product feed. Then the price mismatch is something very interesting as well. Google checks your product feed first. Then once you have stated a price, Google will always try to verify the price. Is it accurate? And if there is no structured data on your product page that matches that price that's on your website, then that's a big issue. On some cases, and especially if you've got discounts, what you often see is that your website shows a discount, but your product feed doesn't show it. There's a mismatch between price on your feed and price on your website. That's going to hurt your visibility. A title match is also something you can easily miss. If your product title and the product feed is completely different than the title element that's on your website, then that's going to confuse Google, especially if Google has very little information about your product. If there is a big difference there, then we will flag it. This is a warning because sometimes there's a good reason to have a different title on your website than the title on your product feed, but it's something that we can flag for you to have a look at. Here's another one, missing images. For each product in your product feed, we find whether or not there are additional image links. If there are no additional image link, then we will check your product page and we will find that, hey, you didn't specify these images in your product feed, but they are on your product page. And so what this missing images check does is it finds images that you should add to your product feed. And then there's a bunch of checks that in this case we have paused. For example, this is a big issue on large feeds where you have duplicate content, duplicate titles, duplicate descriptions, even across variants or different types. A lot of product feeds contain copy and pasted data. And that's obviously a shame because you're missing an opportunity to differentiate one product from another in your feed. Why should Google rank one of your variants over another one if you don't offer it the data to make that differentiation? Another one we check is duplicate words. If you have product titles where lots of words are repeated, for example, gym shorts, the best shorts for men, shorts for a workout. That title uses the word shorts 3 times. Repeating the same word over and over again usually has diminishing returns, and so it's probably best if you can try to optimize those titles. So it's something that we flag as well. Then there is this basic check. So if you have a product feed with thousands and thousands of products, then some of these product links, they may have redirects. They may have different HTTP status codes. So anything but a 200 will be flagged here. And this is happening a lot when there's a 301 redirect in your product feed. And that's something that you should really check. The same we do for a canonical URL. The canonical URL that's on your product page should match the URL that your product feed includes. Another one is image resolution. Often image resolutions are really bad. If it's below Google's guidelines, we will flag it. And finally, there's image aspect ratio, which in this case, this product feed audit passed it. What you see sometimes, especially for products that are shaped irregularly, for example, a surfboard, it's long and narrow. If your product feed image is really long but narrow, then Google is going to center that image. It's going to crop it. If your image ratio is not 1:1, then it might not be an issue at all, but it could be when Google crops the image, your product is not centered correctly anymore. Maybe your product is outside of that cropped area. These are just nitpicky things, but at scale, if you're selling thousands of products, then those things add up and they will be hurting your visibility. So once you've run an audit, you want to start fixing things. Rise makes it easy to filter products by issue. If you need to send it to your developer, share it to your colleague, now filter by issue and export your data to an Excel file, send it to them and have them fix it. This allows you to flag issues that are wrong with your product feed data and your website and start working on those fixes in a structured way. Now, what I said, this is what product feed audits do at ProductRise. It's helping users of ProductRise rank their products higher in Google and in AI mode, AI overviews. And if you want to have a look at ProductRise, there's a free account available. You can start tracking right away. It takes a minute to set up, but you don't even have to give us your credit card. But again, as I said, there's multiple ways to do this. You can check this manually in a spreadsheet, use Screaming Frog to check your website pages and do some filtering there. The easiest way for me is to use ProductRise because it's hands-off, it's structured, and it checks both your product feed and your product pages on your website, and it matches the two together. If you're watching this, just know that our product feed audits are constantly improving. So by the time you're watching this video, we may have already added more checks to our systems that you can use. If you want to have an actual list of things that ProductRise does for you, you can always visit this page. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.